climate resilience investing is all about surviving long enough to adapt and to mitigate. And our resilience method is R equals PPT. Resilience equals people, places, things, and technology. And if you want to be around long enough to thrive, then listen up and pay attention because we're going to unpack this. I'm Sharron McPherson. I'm a former Wall Street investment banker, an attorney, an academic, and senior policy advisor turned serial social impact investor and entrepreneur. And I'm the resilience lady. What's going to happen is you're going to read about climate resilience and you're going to say, oh, wow, I think I know what this session is going to be all about. I'm going to be beaten over the brow about, climate change and the need for climate action. And then you're going to leave my session and you're going to be like, wow, I was able to go from really thinking about climate action in a very sort of activist kind of way to understanding how to match climate resilience investing to climate resilience dividends. And then you're going to leave and you're going to be thinking completely different about climate resilience investing and how you're going to go back to wherever you've come from. And you're going to be like, how are we turning climate resilience investing into economic and financial opportunity for our organization? Because I now believe it's possible. In order for me to really unpack what resilience means within the context of technology and innovation, I really actually need to start by saying, if I say to you, what's resilience? What do you think of, right? So most people think of resilience as that ability to kind of bounce back, right? So if you look at, the resilience of an engineering system, it's the capacity of that system to take a shock and then bounce back and reach some state of equilibrium. I've developed a different methodology that really looks at resilience, not just as the capacity to bounce back, but when we think about resilience as a thing, and then we get to, the innovation and technology, the first thing we're innovating around is bounce back ability. Within the context of climate, it's not enough to get back to the status quo. We've got to build into the concept of resilience the capacity to be better. Because if we're not evolving and if we're not thinking about how we're going to evolve so that we are able to respond differently to the next shock to the system, then we keep kind of having the shocks to the system and we're not exploring new ways. And that's why I think the conversation, around linear and exponential is completely appropriate when you're thinking about resilience technologies, because we're not able to take those linear, those lessons and just apply that historical way of thinking about resilience and responding to vulnerabilities. We have to evolve. So resilience technologies are really those technologies. A lot of them are anchored, in computer science, in AI, and big data, predictive analytics. Looking at things like Earth observation technologies going up so that we get a better view of what's happening on the Earth. And so it really is context specific. But how are we leveraging exponentially growing top technologies to essentially evolve and to address the disruption to our businesses, our communities, our homes as a result of the increasing climate threat? I get to hang out a lot with disruptive innovators and ideators and people who spend a lot of time thinking about how they're going to use what I call resilience technologies to address the climate-related issues that are near and dear to their heart. So Dr. Lisa Dyson is a Latimer Fellow, and the Latimer Fellows are associated with the Thomas Edison Awards for Innovation. It's the Oscar for nerds. Essentially, what she's done is she studied the way that we develop food for astronauts, because I think increasingly what we're going to have to focus on are those technologies, whether we're talking about water, energy, or food systems or land systems, right? You need land to produce food. You need energy to transport the food. And of course, none of this works without water. And so there's a nexus. And so increasingly what we're going to find are technologies like air protein, air food, where you're able to really leapfrog and figure out how do you begin to reimagine the future of food production with limited water, limited energy, increasingly limited space. So what Dr. Dyson has done is said, hey, well, we kind of have those challenges when we're in space, right? So why don't I hang out with the guys at NASA and begin to explore how do we create super nutritious, delicious food with very little resources, very little space, whether we're talking about air protein or other kinds of foods. I think that increasingly we're going to have to produce more with less. Exponential organizations are moving beyond sort of how they're thinking about climate threat in terms of compliance and regulation. Whether you're operating in Europe or in the United States or, South America or in Asia, the fact of the matter is that there is increasing regulatory pressure. We all have it, doesn't matter what industry we're involved in. So we're thinking about our scope 2, our scope 3 emissions, the transition to more sustainable sources of energy, and then net zero. That's kind of how we have been thinking about the new agenda historically. But I think that those organizations that are truly, exponential organizations, they're really ahead of the pack. I think increasingly those organizations are thinking about how do we leverage resilience technologies to create something new, to solve a problem that we haven't been able to solve before, to meet a bespoke need of a client or customer in a way that's never been done before. And I'll give you a quick example. So one of the projects that we're working on right now is with one of the largest mortgage lenders on earth, right? They control $4.23 trillion, right? Climate is huge for these guys, right? And they're looking at their portfolio of investments and they're saying, hang on for a second. How do we begin to quantify the impact of climate on our portfolio? So that's kind of old to newish agenda. But where we are now, which sits squarely within the new agenda framework, is if we do a little bit of network orchestration and we think sort of not just outside in, but inside out innovation, and we bring together partners and folks that our values are intertwined, but they're not aligned, we can create something new. So out of this pain, right, we've been able to leverage value creation enablers within the mortgage lending institution, but also to partner with insurance companies, earth observation companies, folks who can really make sense of the big data, data scientists, et cetera, to say, we're going to create the first ever parametric insurance product. It was launched in New York in 2023, and now we're looking at how do we roll it out in other places that are really subject to either pluvial or fluvial flooding. That's the big destroyer of value. This is a good example of the new agenda and how we're making lemons from lemonade. And I'm really looking forward to seeing you at OpenExO, and we're going to talk about climate resilience investing and how to create long-term value for your organization. We're going to turn lemons into lemonade. It's going to happen.